Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My guest today is Jillian Knight, licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in financial therapy and founder of Her Financial Therapy, a virtual private therapy practice based in North Carolina, focused on helping individuals and couples understand and improve their relationship with money. Jillian is also a speaker, consultant, and budding author on topics relating to financial therapy. Now, this conversation is unlike any other I've had on this podcast. As a relatively new business owner, Jillian has been willing to share everything that she has done in the first year of entrepreneurship to market and grow her practice, as well as everything that she's learned about her own firm and what works best for her. Now, she goes over what it's been like to spend a significant amount of her time simply networking with potential clients and referral sources, how she's leveraged podcast guesting and community speaking events to get her name out there, and what it's been like to wrestle with and hone her business's focus as she's really watched it take shape this past year. She also shares what her one goal was when she set out to start her business last summer, and she even reveals whether she's been able to reach that goal as a result of all the love and care that she's poured into her marketing. So I'm excited to share with you Jillian's story. Let's dive in. Jillian, thank you so much for joining me on the Finance Marketing Podcast today. I'm so excited to chat with you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. I feel very honored to be here. I'm good.
Well, I would love to start if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do inside your business, and what inspired you to start your own business.
Yeah, so the short version is I am a financial therapist. So I have a license as a marriage and family therapist in the state of North Carolina. And then I have gotten some additional training and have started last June, so coming up on a year, my own therapy practice where I specialize in financial therapy specifically for individuals and couples from like a feminist lens. And I got into it a lot, had to do with my own journey of personal finance. So sort of kept therapy separate for a long time and worked in a lot of different settings, working with a lot of different people, but was reimagining like what I really wanted to do in my career. And after going through, my husband and I going through our own sort of evolution in our personal finances and then discovering the field of financial therapy, sort of brought those two worlds together. And it's an exciting field. I saw the potential for different opportunities and the potential to be an entrepreneur and manage my own schedule and do a variety of different things because I get really bored if I do the same thing for too long. And so, yeah, it's been a journey.
Well, congratulations coming up on your first year in business. Before we dive into some of the marketing side, I would love if you would just share a little bit about your evolution in terms of your own personal journey with finances and money, because I know you have a really interesting story that a lot of people can relate to. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you saying that. So I grew up like lower middle class. We didn't have a ton of money, but we had what we needed and some of what we wanted. I didn't learn much about money growing up. I got the message like I was the one in my family that like did everything right, and I'm the one who's gonna go off to college, and also that like somewhere along the way I got the message of like I should marry a man and he will provide. And so that's a lot of messages. And also took out a lot of student loans. And so when my husband and I got married, we had $364,000 in student loans, and we were
Wow.
making 95 combined. So that was incredibly stressful, and we jumped in the Dave Ramsey Kool-Aid. And we're in the South, we're in North Carolina. So back in 2016, he was like the loudest voice and like everywhere. Luckily, there's more people out there now doing different things. But for us, we didn't know much about personal finance. And so we really clung on to it and became like very restrictive, cut out everything, didn't really have much fun for a long time. And we paid down a lot of student loans. We did not pay them off. We stopped listening to him eventually and decided what was going to work best for us and our values and our lifestyle and our goals. This was before we had our daughter. And I also started to recognize like some lasting effects from following such like a restrictive way of living with money and such a like shame-based approach to like, you're stupid, you're dumb, like you shouldn't be spending money on X, Y, and Z, right? The shoulds around what is acceptable kind of thing. So that really stuck with us despite no longer following the plan or listening. And at some point I thought like I wanted to be a financial coach because of all the work that we had done and everything I had, learned and consumed. But after being a therapist, you have a hard time not going deeper. And so I sometimes I appreciate not having to go so deep. But once I discovered like, okay, there's a whole like gap here that there are people out there that are trying to fill that gap in financial therapy, that gap between sort of the logical and emotional aspects of money. And like the gap between like what you get in going to therapy and what you get from like a financial planner, traditionally anyway. And so, yeah, so I reached out to a bunch of people doing what I thought I might like to do and asked them what they were doing. And I was like, yep, this is it. This is what I'm going to do.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that part of your story because I think it just informs so much of how you position yourself now as a financial therapist and the message that you're trying to put out there and the people that you're trying to attract. Because, like you, there are so many people, myself included, who I think we started our financial journey with Dave Ramsey. And like you said, there's so much baggage that you carry with you after listening to those messages of shame and guilt around money that I know for me, it's still something I'm working through. And, it's something I've been working through for years and years, and it's long lasting. So I really appreciate that that's what you're doing. And I'm excited to talk about how you started finding your first clients and connecting with them and what you're doing with your marketing. So I know that you've tried a lot of different things. So why don't you just give us a broad overview of what you've been doing in the past year, almost year, to establish yourself, find your people, and really get this business off the ground. And then we can dive into what's not worked and what has worked and how's it all felt and things like that.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've tried a lot of things. I tried to take the advice of some therapist business coaches that I follow to like not try to do too many things at once, but it was really hard because when I was first starting out, like I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in terms of marketing. I knew that, like I knew I needed a website, and I knew that I had spoken with a number of financial therapists who suggested the Financial Therapy Association has a directory for financial therapists. And I had several people recommend that can be a good place to get referrals from. And so I knew I wanted to do the website and work on learning SEO, which I still need to work on learning more about. And so I got a website. I made my own website in Squarespace, which I felt really proud about. Created my own logo. Thank you very much. And then the directory, and then connecting with other financial therapists was a big one. Like, and then other people, like other like directly connecting, like networking one-on-one with people, not so much like groups of people. That is not my thing. I'm much more of like I just want to meet with one person at a time sort of thing. And so I think I lost count. I counted, I think, between June and December. So like the second half, the first half of my year of business almost, I met with like somewhere around 60 people,
Wow.
just one to one, like new people. And then some of those people I met with more than once. Right. And so not all of those were going to be like great connections, or some of them didn't turn out to be like aligned with my values, which is important to
Mm.
me. And so in a lot of those meetings, I was like I was also connecting with other therapists, like they're like just mental health therapists, and reconnecting with some of the ones in my area. So
Mm.
thinking through like who my potential referral sources might be as, other professionals. So therapists, financial advisors, and planners.
Mm.
Those were my sort of like, that's what I was thinking, right? I met with a few financial coaches too. And so I was doing that, and just like random people like that I was meeting on LinkedIn, like you, and
Yes.
other people who were talking about Dave Ramsey, or like talking about things that I was like, I think we would get along, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that, and then so I've done a lot of things. So website directory, networking with people. I have done podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big one. And so more like local podcasts, and just other like financial therapy podcasts, other types of podcasts. And I've done some in-person speaking. And then I just wrote an article. So that's a new
Oh,
thing. And
congratulations.
thank you. A blog article. I was a content writer for someone. And what else have I done? I've done a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, I would love to kind of dive in and pause for a second, because I think it's really interesting and probably impactful that you spent your first 6 months kind of connecting with people who could be referral sources for you. I think that's a really smart strategy. And I would love to just kind of like backpedal for a second and say, or ask you, what was your goal for your first year in business? And, you're coming up on that first year. And do you feel like you've made progress toward that goal? And kind of just talk me through that.
Mm. Goal specific to marketing, or just goal in general?
Goal, it could be specific to marketing. It could be how many clients you wanted to work with.
Mhm.
I'm going to leave it up to interpretation.
Yeah, yeah. So I had one goal, and then I added another goal somewhere in
Mm,
there. So my first goal was to get up to making what I was making at bringing home the amount of money that I
mm,
was bringing home from my full-time job that I had before I told my husband, I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm going to jump into full-time entrepreneurship.
yeah.
And so my first goal was get back up to that,
Mhm.
because I, for obvious reasons, but I thought, I'll feel more comfortable once I'm back there, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it'll feel a little more like stable, like this is going somewhere, right? And then the other goal I added, so I actually ended up adding a second business in this
Mm,
process, where I was in order to do things outside of like the practice of therapy, there are certain things that you can't really do under a therapy business. So I opened a separate business, and I was actually trying to take on too much for a while. And then
mm,
I had to like slow myself down and like, let's focus on one thing at a time in terms of like the services that I'm providing, right? And so I anticipated, my goal was I want to get up to a certain number of one-to-one financial therapy clients a week between individuals and couples. And then I want to start looking at what else I might like to do, because I'm not somebody who has any interest or the energy to see like 20 or 25 clients for like the emotional work of therapy
Yeah.
every week. So like, I have a 3-year-old. I'm a highly sensitive person. So I'm only working with so much energy, right? And so I've really struggled some with like putting my energy in, like figuring out where to put my energy, honestly. And so that whole like June through December was very much like the whole like, let's just try this thing and see how it goes. And let's just try that thing. And it's an experiment. And then I knew I anticipated going into the new year that like January, February would probably be a time when people would be starting to reach out to me. And so my focus at the end of last year was like, let's just like keep showing up and being present and let people know, like a big part of my job is letting people know that financial therapy is a thing and that I'm here and I'm doing it and this is what it is and this is how it helps. Like, and so, yeah, so that's been a big part of the beginning. And so it's fluctuated some recently, but I did get up to the number of clients I wanted to see. And so I'm sort of currently trying to maintain my marketing, more of like maintain than focus on like lots and lots of time on it, but maintain the marketing I'm doing to continue bringing in clients, which I am because I've got some consultations next week. It's great. And while also looking at like, all right, where else do I want to put my energy? And really still, honestly, the whole niching process is still very confusing to me. So
Yeah, well, and I think that the niching process too, it's very much ongoing, especially in those first few years of business. So let's talk about that a little bit because I know you started when you and I first met, you were kind of positioning yourself as a financial therapist for women. And then I think if I'm remembering correctly, you've maybe gone through one or two different iterations of that. I know you went through at least a period of time where you were working as a financial therapist for other therapists. And I don't think I know exactly where you've gone from there, if that's still what you're doing or if you've pivoted again. So talk me through what that's been like.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the struggle was like I could see I have so I started out with women, right? Like because of my own experience as a woman, right? And wanting to help women not just like they need the financial there's a lot of women who need the financial education, and we both know that that's not always all you need, right? Like there's a lot more to your relationship with money than just the knowledge piece. And so, I started out with women and then I wanted to I was looking to really like narrow that a little bit more. And so I kept going back and forth between like therapists because I know therapists, I'm comfortable with therapists. Therapists are comfortable with me. I already have sort of like credibility in that area, right? And I can speak to what they're struggling with. And so I've had some therapists as clients who I love. And so I was like, maybe I want to work with more of them. But then I also started getting more couples, which I'm not I don't want to see only couples because I love my couples and I think that that is really important work that's needed, and I have to cap my have to cap my couples at so many per week. And so I have to be really careful about how many I take on at one time, right? And so I started noticing that also I think the most recent iteration has been me thinking through like women, yes, but like women are also part of couples in a lot of cases. And I know from my own experience and then what I know about especially like millennials and the like influence of the patriarchy on our roles and how we think about the division of household labor and the mental load and the like the power dynamics in couples and how that relates to money and how that was showing up in some of my couples. And so I was like, this also feels really important. And so then I'm like, but the patriarchy impacts men too. So should I be working with men too? Right. And so I'm in this place of like, it might not be, my niche might not be a demographic so much as the psychographics or whatever you call them. Right. Like it might be more about like people who want an egalitarian relationship, but they're struggling in their relationship financially because they have this internalized patriarchy that they're not able to see another way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like another way managing money together.
I really love the way that you're thinking about this. And I think one of the challenges, but also one of the blessings of a niche is there's not a single right way to do it, right? You can have a niche that is more based on psychographics or shared values or a shared path forward. And it doesn't have to be just this, kind of static demographic of people. So I think that you in your first year of business are totally fine to keep exploring and figuring that out. I think that is perfectly acceptable.
Appreciate that.
And I think from my perspective as someone who thinks about niching a lot, I think that you're thinking about niches in a really powerful way, and your niche is revealing itself to you over time, which is what I think is what results in the best fit niche for professionals. So love to hear you talk about that. Now, another thing that I would love to ask you about, because you mentioned there's a couple things, but you mentioned you had started a second business. And just for clarity for our listeners, I think that's because as a licensed therapist, you're only licensed to practice in North Carolina, but showing up online, you were attracting people from all over the nation. Is that right? So you wanted to be able to expand and kind of serve them as well.
Yeah. So I started, marketing my practice and getting people from all different parts of the country reaching out to me, wanting to work with me. And I couldn't work with them because because of the way that I provide services as a financial therapist, at least right now, is under my license in the state of North Carolina and via telehealth for South Carolina. And so I was like, I'm sort of I can't do therapy with everyone, but there are things that I might be able to provide that are not therapy, but still in this realm of the emotional side of money and like your relationship with money. And that is going to fit more under like just like an LLC, like sort of business. And so, so that's why I created that. And right now I have it more structured as like therapeutic financial coaching for therapists, because therapists don't learn how to talk about money or to explore their own relationship with it. And we don't get any training around like running a business or managing business finances. So that is something that I'm doing sort of in addition, right? It's sort of like a secondary sort of, and seeing the financial therapy as like the primary thing that I'm doing.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you, because you had mentioned, there was a period of time where you realized you were doing too much, and so you pulled back. So where are you now? Which one are you focusing more on right now?
Yeah. So I am focusing on sort of figuring out what that next thing is that I want to put my energy into. So I've got a pretty steady flow of referrals coming in for new client, and I have some clients that I'm working with ongoing. And really, like, I think I'm still sort of exploring what opportunities there might be, whether that is I'm trying to stay open. I have a tendency to want to know what I am going to be doing. Or like there's this idea that like I need to decide this is what I'm doing and I need to go do it sort of thing. But there's also a part of me that's like, this financial therapy space is sort of full of opportunities because there aren't a lot of people doing it. And to some degree, I can kind of create things potentially that didn't exist before, which is exciting, but is also like there really isn't too much of a path, right? Kind of like there is for other professions. So we're all sort of figuring out how we can be most helpful, right? Like how can I use my skills in a way that I enjoy around money, emotions, relationships without overworking myself and balancing my life.
And also making the money that you want to make to reach your own financial goals. I think that's an important part too. That's such an important piece.
Also important.
Well, Jillian, I think that it sounds like you've had a really successful almost first year in business. Maybe it doesn't feel like that way to you because you've been, I mean, I guess I would love to ask you, looking back on this first year, do you feel like you've been successful? And it's been like a great year of learning. Yeah, I'm going to let you answer that and then I'll continue on.
Yeah. So I'm very transparent and I'll be honest, like I am only recently starting to recognize how much work I put in to the first 10 months of my business. I have a tendency to not give myself enough credit for things and to just keep barreling through and on to the next thing. But I put myself out there and I took a lot of risks over the last 10 months that I hadn't before. And so I'm proud of that. And I am something I've also realized recently is that I've done a lot of things in building my business that were unpaid for the purpose of visibility, right? And I'm getting to this point of like, I'm ready to be paid for the things that I'm doing. Yes. So I'm going to require that. And I'm not going to be doing as much unpaid work anymore.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's such an important thing to recognize. I know from the outside looking in, it's easy for someone to say like, it looks like you've had a really successful year, but you're right. You have to put in a lot of that unpaid foundation building in the beginning. And I see you doing that every single day when I see you on LinkedIn and doing the things that you're doing.
Oh yeah. And social media. I didn't even include social media in my list of things I've been doing.
I know. And I think that's a big one. I know that you're on LinkedIn all the time. I don't know if you're still doing Instagram. I think you had been for a little while. Is that something that you're still doing?
I know. I am only somewhat. I had to stop making it like a main thing because I wasn't, that's not where my clients were coming from. My clients were coming from Google and the Financial Therapy Directory and a couple of random places, but other than that. So I had to go back to what's working.
Well, I'm proud of you for making that decision. I think that's really important to not do all the things. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see what this second year in business holds for you, because I think you've done so much of the important work of laying the foundation. And in the second year, I think you're going to see a lot of that really flourish and just continue to get clarity and keep doing great work. So, Jillian, if you could give one last piece of advice to someone who is maybe just starting to think about, you know what, I want to quit my full-time job and go and work for myself. So put yourself back in your shoes 10 months ago. What's one piece of advice that you could share with somebody?
So I will say, I do have to give the disclaimer that like I was fortunate and privileged to be able to jump into not making any money initially. So I have to put that out there. And I would say the best thing that someone told me was just shoot your shot kind of thing. Like just try and just ask, right? And So I would say, like, don't spend too much time getting in your own way. And the more you put yourself out there, the easier it gets.
And perfect action all day, every day. Well, Jillian, this has been a really fun conversation. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you more?
Yeah, sure. So I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. Her Financial Therapy is the name of my financial therapy business. And then on LinkedIn, I'm at Her Financial Therapy, or I'm on LinkedIn, I'm at Jillian Knight, because that's who I am. And on Instagram, I'm on Her Financial Therapy.
Perfect. Well, I'll link to your social handles in the show notes, and I'll probably also put your website in there if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please do.
And awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jillian. This has been such a great conversation, and I would love to revisit this conversation in a year. Maybe we can record another episode in a year and talk about kind of what your second year of business was like.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm all for it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jillian. This was great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.